Hello friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about the slowdown in the global growth rates. Now we already know that Indian economy is going through a phase of slowdown in the growth rates. And in Indian economy, the growth rate is measured in terms of GDP. So GDP is the monetary value of all the final goods and services produced in an economy in a financial year. So in terms of GDP, the Indian economy is going through a slowdown in growth rates. So coupled with that is the global growth rates. So similar to Indian economy, globally also the growth rates are very slow. So we will be discussing about the slowdown in global growth rates, what are the indicators of it, what are the reasons for that, and what are the challenges and what could be the possible impact on India. So we will be discussing this in detail in this lecture. Let us start with the current affair. So the current affair is that the OECD is the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. So according to a new forecast of OECD, the global growth rates are slowing down. So the global growth in the current year will slip to its slowest growth rate since the financial crisis of 2008 as per the forecast of OECD. So in 2008 we know that there was the GFC or global financial crisis. So since 2008, this present year, that is 2019-20 financial year, is going to witness the highest or the biggest slip in the growth rates in the global level. So this is the forecast of OECD and therefore it is a very important topic for all competitive examinations. So we need to know what is the forecast of OECD and why, or what are the reasons, what are the indicators for that, the implications on India. So let us start with the economic indicators. The first one is quantitative easing. So what is meant by quantitative easing? Quantitative easing is a monetary policy tool used by the US Federal Reserve. Now the central bank of US economy is the Federal Reserve of USA. So Federal Reserve uses certain monetary tools in order to regulate the money supply in the US economy. So one such monetary tool, a very significant monetary tool, is quantitative easing. Now what is meant by quantitative easing? Quantitative easing means that the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the United States of America, will bring down the interest rates. Now, similarly, in India, we have the Monetary Policy Committee. The Monetary Policy Committee in India is responsible for adopting monetary policy. It can be either expansionary or contractionary in nature. By expansionary monetary policy, what we mean is increase in the money supply. By contractionary monetary policy, we mean a decrease in the money supply. Likewise, in the US also, their central bank, that is the Federal Reserve, adopts expansionary and contractionary monetary policy. By quantitative easing, it is an expansionary monetary policy, which means the money supply will be increased by using quantitative easing. So for that, what is done? The interest rates are brought down. That is, the cost of finance becomes very less. So in India, we use repo rate as the benchmark interest rate. So based on that, the Monetary Policy Committee will either increase or decrease the repo rate to increase or decrease the money supply. Likewise, the quantitative easing method, it is a monetary tool whereby the interest rates are cut down in order to increase the money supply in the economy. And any change in the money supply in the US economy will have consequences and impact on the global economy as well. So very recently, the Federal Open Market Committee, that is FOMC, so likewise in India we have Monetary Policy Committee. So in US it is FOMC, that is Federal Open Market Committee, which comes under the Federal Reserve. So the FOMC had reduced the policy interest rates by 25 BPS or basis points in order to support the US economy, in order to increase the money supply in the US economy. And this decision of the US Federal Reserve came after the decision of ECB or the European Commercial Bank in order to push the interest rate into a negative territory. So this comes along with the decision of the European Central Bank as well. We will come to the details of it later in this lecture. Now, second economic indicator is the descent. Now, by dissent, what does it mean? There is a division among the officers, or there is a difference of opinion within the central banks. That is, we have seen the example of Federal Reserve as well as the European Central Bank or the ECB. So, even when both these central banks decided to bring down the interest rates and further increase the money supply in the economy, there are difference of opinion within the officers of the central bank. It means that not all the officers are in favor of adopting an expansionary monetary policy. So, this is a reflection of the state of the global economy. This shows how difficult is policy making. No policy maker or official is in a position to come up into a clear-cut conclusion. So in Federal Reserve as well as in the European Central Bank, what we see is that there is a difference of opinion among the officials. Now when we come to European Central Bank, the European Central Bank has also adopted a policy of expansion or money supply expansion, and as a policy measure it has adopted a policy of asset purchase. Now by asset purchase, the bank is injecting more money into the economy. So by this announcement of the asset purchase, this could lead to a dislocation in the financial markets. So there would be changes in the financial market, and this can also escalate trade related tensions. Now, what is meant by asset purchase? By asset purchase, the European Central Bank means to inject more money into the economy. So this implies that the supply of the euros in the system or in the market will increase, and this will put a downward pressure on the exchange rate, because the exchange rate is determined by market forces of supply and demand. So when the supply increases, there will be a downward pressure on the exchange rate of any currency. So this is the situation. Now, next economic indicator is the ongoing trade war between United States and China. The long and the ongoing trade war is also creating tension in the global economy. And according to the OECD's forecast, the ongoing trade war between China and US is impacting the global economy very significantly. For example, a recent Fed note showed that the trade policy uncertainty in the first half of 2018 accounts for a decline in the global GDP by 0.8%. So, definitely it is impacting the global GDP because of the trade tensions between US and China. Now let us come to the challenges ahead. The first one is the trade uncertainty, and definitely the trade uncertainty, one major factor is the ongoing trade tensions between US and China. So the trade uncertainty is definitely going to slow down the global growth in a very significant manner, and this is a challenge that needs to be addressed. This is because the tensions or the trade war between US and China is not just impacting the US and China's economies, but it has got a huge and significant impact on global economies, on the global value chain, etc. Now, second one is the role of the central banks. Now, the role of central banks is to basically come up with monetary policies. Now, the monetary policies are concerned with the supply of money in the economy or money supply in the economy. So, basically a monetary policy should aim at increasing or decreasing money supply in an economy. So, this is the role of the central banks. But what we really observe is that the central banks are doing only the minimum. They are doing their bit, only their minimum, in order to contain the damage of the global trade tensions. Now, what is the significance of the monetary policy? Monetary policy, or the policies adopted by the central banks, it is a powerful tool for controlling the consumer spending, that is for creating demand in order to regulate the business investment and also public confidence. This is because by the way of increasing money supply, monetary policy will help in increasing or reviving the demand, and also by creating enabling situations or creating ease of borrowing, investments can also be increased. Thirdly, by adopting consistent monetary policies, the investor confidence can be boosted. So, the role of the central banks in framing monetary policy and thereby affecting or impacting the economy or the market is very huge. So, they should really use this monetary policy tools in order to revive the confidence of the investors and also to revive the consumer demand, but their role is restricted or they are doing their minimum. This can be because of policy uncertainties or because of an unsupportive policy environment. Now, third biggest challenge is the instability in the prices of oil. Recently, we have seen the Saudi oil attacks. So, any uncertainty regarding the prices of oil is also a big challenge for the economy, especially the global economy as a whole. Any increase in the prices of the oil will bring up the cost of production, thereby reduce the output. So the global GDP will come down. So this is also another challenge that is needed to be addressed. And fourth challenge is the geopolitical tensions, especially in the West Asia. So these are all some of the challenges that needs to be addressed, and by addressing these challenges, the global economy can be revived to a larger extent and the growth rates will pick up. Now let us come to the impact on India. So what impact does the global growth slowdown will bring for India? First one, India is already going through a phase of economic slowdown. So the consumption, India is a demand driven economy. The consumption in Indian economy or the consumption rates have come down. The output or the GDP has come down. Also the employment creation or generation has come down. So these are all indications that Indian economy is already going through a crisis. On the top of that, if there is a global financial crisis or a global slowdown in the growth rates, then the economic slowdown in India can prolong. This is because of the external influence. The first reason is the prices of oil. Second one is the policies of the Federal Reserve and the impact of Federal Reserve's policies on India. Third one, global economic conditions. Now fourth one is the global trade conditions. So all these have impact on Indian economy. So these are all some of the externalities wherein which Indian economy can be hugely impacted. So if the global growth slowdown continues for long, this will prolong the economic slowdown in India as well. Our GDP rates will further fall, employment generation will further fall, and the consumption or revival of consumption would be very difficult. Now, second impact can be on capital flows. On capital flows, the impact can be both negative as well as positive. Now, because of uncertain investment conditions in developed economies, there are chances that the foreign capital will flow to India, into emerging countries like India. So, from that angle, the emerging economies like India are at the advantageous position as the developed countries does not provide a stable environment for investment. So from that perspective, it is a positive thing. But also, an increase in the risk aversion in the global financial system will have negative impacts on Indian economy. So it can be either negative or positive. Now third impact is on investment. Now investment or private investment, especially private investment plus household consumption. These are the two engines of economic growth in India. So, private investment at any cost should be revived. For that, the investor confidence should be revived. But during a phase of economic slowdown, especially a global economic slowdown, the investor confidence would be very low. So, India or the policies, economic policies in India should be in such a way that will promote the ease of doing business in India and also protect and preserve the macroeconomic stability so that more investments can be attracted to Indian economy. So these are all some of the impacts on Indian economy. You can find the PDF of this lecture on our website www.studyiq.com. You can also follow my Facebook page for more video updates. You can write to me at joycey.studyiq@gmail.com for any of your queries and clarification. Thank you.